Friends, Arrakis is changing forever, and much sooner than we anticipated. Today, Dune Awakening's creative director spoke out about the state of the game, and it's truly shocking. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and here's everything that's changing with PvE and PvP in Dune Awakening. So let's cut right to the chase, because there's no point in burying the lead. The Deep Desert is about to undergo a massive transformation, the first in what I suspect will be a series of changes throughout the game's lifecycle. According to Joel, Dune Awakening's creative director, the team's goal is not to force PvE players to interact with PvP systems that they may have no interest in. With that in mind, Joel announced that some areas of the Deep Desert will now be flagged as partial warfare PvE, while the deepest parts of the desert will remain as they currently are, high reward, high risk areas. To get more specific, he said that the top tier of the game is balanced around guilds and groups, so people will still find it grindy if they play solo. Landsraad control points, shipwrecks, and the largest spice fields within the region of the Deep Desert will remain War of Assassins PvP flagged. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know how I feel about these changes at this moment. Dune Awakening was always going to have to grapple with this conundrum. PvE and PvP can work in harmony, but it's very challenging to walk that line where both parts of the player base are happy. It'll be interesting to see how the implementation of expanded PvE zones in the Deep Desert play out, because as most of you know, those T6 resources are really only currently accessible to players that are part of a guild and take a coordinated approach to farming. Now, you could still get these resources solo, but your head needs to be on a swivel at all times, and you have to hope your aggressor wasn't a tier higher than you. The way they're wording these changes, it sounds like those massive islands of T6 resources and large spice fields will remain locked behind the PvP region, while small amounts of these resources will be available in the PvE zone, which I think is the right call. Massive changes, guys, absolutely massive. But that's not all, because Joel continued with some very specific PvP changes based on the recent feedback from the community AMA on Reddit. Joel commented on a number of things and described some changes coming, most likely in the early July patch the team teased during that AMA. But now we have some concrete details as to what is changing. First is that scout ornithopters with rocket launchers attached will have their speed and maneuverability reduced. Second, rockets fired from the scout ornithopter will have increased heat generation. Third, thrusters will provide a max speed bonus regardless of wings, ensuring that thruster-equipped scouts will be the fastest vehicles in the game. And finally, a new T5 infantry rocket launcher will be added to help improve the dynamics of vehicle and ground combat. In our opinion, these changes were very much needed, because it doesn't straight up remove the combat capabilities of the scout. It instead raises the skill cap of these vehicles, making your movement and shots a more deliberate choice, while giving those without armaments a clear speed advantage if they flee quick enough. We still think they could take things a step further and make it so that any vehicle equipped with combat capabilities is unable to be pocketed through the vehicle backup tool, which would bring a more even playing field to the scout versus assault ornithopter dynamic. The team also said that additional changes to mechanics like respawn timers, vehicle storage tools, hand scanners, and other mechanics will be addressed, as they're starting to see the systems abused in the Deep Desert. One comment Joel also made was that there needs to be more balance between the different ways people engage in combat, whether that's on the ground, in a ground vehicle, or from the air. Specifically, he said they're all supposed to have clear roles, clear strengths, and clear counters. Thopters will always be incredibly important for crossing the desert, but they shouldn't also be the dominant force in actual battles. We're planning to make more changes to the Deep Desert to accommodate ground battles and reinforce the use of player builds. This is something we talked about after that AMA, and I'm glad the team is really taking a hard look at this specific issue, because the balance is way off at the moment, and nothing like the launch trailer that showcased groups of players engaging across multiple fronts. That's clearly the vision they have in mind, but I don't know if that's a reality in the current state of the game. Survival game players that are PvP focused will always, without a doubt, lean into a meta, even if it's the worst griefing systems imaginable. That's because the reward for killing other players, especially in a demanding resource-driven environment, is exactly that, resources that would have otherwise taken hours to farm. There's something bigger here, underlying the dynamic they're trying to fix. I think it runs pretty deep. In the second part of the blog post, Joel talked about the Landsraad, the endgame system that pits House Atreides versus House Harkonnen in a race to control the Council and their votes. If you want a deep dive on this system, I highly recommend you check out our Wish I Knew Sooner tips and tricks video, because it'll take far too long to bring you up to speed on that entire system. Joel admits that the Landsraad is currently not working for everyone, but that is the goal. At the moment, he also said that the activities it asks you to participate in are simplistic, a lot of item hand-ins and crafting requests. That's because the system is in its earliest launchable iteration. The activities that the Landsraad asks you to do will become more varied as we flesh out the world with more content and activities. He even went into some detail about what those activities might be, such as more dungeons with bosses that drop endgame loot, more contracts that require specific tasks to be undertaken, more specialized delivery tasks that include components that can't be stockpiled, and if the team ever adds raids to the game, specific tasks revolving around that activity. More importantly, the team is working to address some of the current design flaws with the Landsraad system, specifically the inability to hand in items after a square is complete and the rapidity at which squares are turned in, saying that stockpiling is currently rewarded, but that is not our intention for this system, and we will make some changes to address it as best we can. Look, this system, the Landsraad, is in its infancy, and for a massive multiplayer survival game that leans hard into RPG elements, to already have a working endgame system at launch is a big win, and to address the flaws within the first month is even better. More is going to come, and I think the first big July patch is going to reveal a lot about how the team is actually going to react to these changes and adjust the systems. Joel did say that the team will keep adding endgame activities and more PvE content to the game going forward, both free and paid content in the form of DLCs and expansions, which I think is right in line with how they should be approaching the game post-launch, and something they talked about in the recent AMA. So there you have it, guys. Some massive things confirmed coming to the game, and while they didn't specifically say when these changes would be going into effect, I'm fairly confident that most, if not all, of the things Joel talked about will be implemented during that first major patch in early July. The team didn't seem to shy away from that during the AMA, and clearly these issues are top of mind for the developers. As they said, this is the very start of a long journey, so don't be surprised when this is just the first of many changes to come with the game. As always, if you appreciate the work that goes into making these videos, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up and consider subscribing. We've been covering Dune Awakening since day one, and we'll continue to follow the game as development continues, so keep it right here and never miss a thing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.